You see her again the next night. Of course you do. Nurse Young is always there when the sky goes dark and the hospital lights buzz like old secrets. She's early. Always early. The rest of the nurses roll in with yawns and coffee, but Young, she's already in uniform, standing by the medication fridge, flipping through charts like a metronome tick, tick, tick. There's something strange about the way she reads. Not like she's scanning for information, but like she already knows what she's going to see. One of the junior nurses asks her a question. She answers softly, with the same smile you saw last night. The same exact one. It doesn't shift. Not a twitch. Not a blink. Out of place. You trail behind her tonight, casually. You're not trying to be obvious. You're just curious, right? Room 507. She slips in, adjusts a saline bag, checks vitals. The patient stirs. She says something you can't hear. Then that smile again, and back out she goes. Room 409 again. This time, she lingers. You pause around the corner. There's no sound, just the soft tap of a pen against her clipboard. You peek, and she's staring at the patient, not checking equipment, not writing notes. Just standing there, hands folded, like she's watching someone sleep on a park bench. And she's smiling. You blink, and she moves. You fish in again. Soft rustle of scrubs, whisper of shoes on tile. You find a chance to talk to Minji, a fellow nurse who's been on the floor longer than you. She's wary, eyes darting. She's kind, Minji says, forcing a smile. Gentle, just doesn't talk much. You nod. She's always on nights. Minji pauses. She prefers it. Said she likes the quiet, fewer distractions. Then she hesitates. She volunteered for nights right after Mr. Beck died. You know the name. Beck was a long-term patient, lived through a triple bypass, a stroke, and somehow peacefully passed in his sleep. Young was on duty. Do you think that was suspicious? Minji doesn't answer right away. We all thought he was stable, but no one checked the charts after. They just wheeled him down like always. You try to sleep the next day. You really do. But something stuck in your head. Her face, that smile, it's not wide, not fake, but it's constant. And in the medical field, no one smiles that much. Not unless they know something the rest of us don't. So you start digging. Online forums, old hospital newsletters, staff reviews. And there she is, Nurse Jung, popping up in mentions across different hospitals. Always in a night shift role. Always transferred in, quietly. No farewell parties, no social media. One hospital even listed her name differently. Jung Hae-won. Another called her Hae-won Jung. The credentials match, but there's no university page. No nursing license registry. You try her photo on a reverse image search, nothing. Like she doesn't exist outside of employee records. Which is weird, right? Because everyone has something online. A comment, a photo, a cat meme from 2008. But Nurse Jung? Ghost. You go back to the hospital early that night. She's already there, of course. Sitting quietly at the break room table, sipping tea, and smiling. You sit down across from her. Busy night? She shrugs gently. Always is. Some don't make it. Then she slides her teacup forward. Want some? You decline. Something in your chest tightens. You're sure it's just your imagination. Still, you don't take the tea. She smiles wider. That's smart. You leave the room in silence, your heart tapping too hard in your chest, and in your head, that voice again. Some don't make it. There's a saying in the hospital. If it's not charted, it didn't happen. But what if someone makes sure it never gets charted? You're starting to look closer now. Not at people, but at the records. You pull patient files during breaks, late at night when no one's watching, clicking through digital logs that feel oddly empty. The deaths look ordinary, expected even, mostly older patients. All peaceful, no codes, no panic, no late night crash teams rushing into rooms. But there's something too, Daidi, and then you notice it. In 3 of the deaths last month, there are missing timestamps. No digital medication logs for the night of the death. No nurse's notes until the next morning. Like the system just slept through it all. That doesn't happen by accident. You check the printed versions, the handwritten logs that still exist for backup. But entire pages are gone. cleanly torn out. Not shredded, not sloppily removed, just absent, like someone knew exactly what to take. So you go to medical records and ask about backups. A sleepy technician scrolls through the archive list. We only keep hard copies on site for a year. Older stuff gets scanned. Can I see last year's logs? She hesitates. Some of them got corrupted. Elevator shorted the server after that lightning strike last summer. Of course it did. The IT guy's no help either. You ask him about access logs. Who edits patient charts? Who can delete entries? He scratches his head. Technically, only admins, or someone with the password. Like? He shrugs. Usually the charge nurse. And that week, Jung was charge nurse twice. Of course she was. You head back upstairs, this time with a new focus. You aren't watching Nurse Jung, you're watching the paper trail, or what's left of it. You notice how she handles patient files. She never lets anyone else carry them. Her card is always locked, her pen always on her. She scans each chart with that same unblinking patience, like a chess player reviewing a board full of secrets. The other nurses trust her. Why wouldn't they? She's gentle, her shifts are quiet, her passions I clean. But then there's one night, a small moment that feels wrong in a way you can't unsee. It's near midnight. A woman in room 414 is coding. You rush in with the team, the monitor's screaming. You're halfway through CPR when someone shouts, "Where's the crash cart?" Silence, then footsteps. Jung walks in calm, unbothered, pushing the cart at a casual pace. The patient doesn't make it. You're sweating, angry. Where were you? She tilts her head. Had to unlock the med cabinet. It was stuck. And she smiles. Later that night, you check the med cabinet. It opens smoothly. No issues. No signs of forced access. No reason it would be stuck. You start to keep a list. Not of names, but of oddities. Deaths that didn't trigger alerts. Files that disappeared. Nurses transferred after working with Jung. Patients with no family to notice they're gone. It's getting harder to pretend this is all normal. Historians still debate whether Florence Nightingale invented modern nursing. But they definitely debate what Jung is doing here. And just when you think you've seen it all, you spot something new. A post-it note on your locker. No name, no handwriting. Just one line. Don't dig too deep, she notices. You peel it off with shaky fingers. And that night, she waves to you across the hallway like nothing's wrong. But you feel it in your chest now. She knows. Miracles are rare in this building. Usually they come packaged in plastic pill cups or whispered in discharge paperwork. But tonight, you get one in a hospital gown, wheezing like a rusty accordion. Mr. Han, 87, cranky as burnt rice, has been reassigned from the infamous room 409 to 412 because you begged the charge nurse for better feng shui. Joke. 1. You also claimed the wallpaper in 409 gives you gray hairs, which she politely ignored. Mr. Han wasn't supposed to see the sunrise. Stage 4 lung failure, DNR signed. Family already picking out the funeral photo. Yet somewhere between midnight vitals and the 3 a.m. coffee run, his monitors spike back into a slow, stubborn rhythm. You nearly drop your stethoscope. The man is breathing deeper than a yoga instructor. Then you notice the telltale signs of Jung's visit, the perfectly aligned clipboard, the capped syringe in the disposal bin, and of course the faint scent of jasmine hand cream. Only this time, something misfired. Or maybe Mr. Han's constitution is powered by sheer contrariness. Either way, he lives. At 4 a.m., with the ward wrapped in hush, he tugs your sleeve. His voice is papery, but urgent. "Blue Needle," he rasps, eyes flicking to the doorway. "Smiling angel, wanted me to sleep forever." He squeezes your wrist with surprising force, like a grandfather warning you about a slippery sidewalk. Then he slips back under the blanket, as if revealing a state secret costs him what little energy remains. Odd detail of the night. Mr. Han insists on keeping a tiny porcelain frog on his bedside table, claims it guards against nightmares. Joke 2. You wish he'd lend it to the entire floor. The frog would need overtime pay. You glance at the figurine, its glossy eyes reflecting the corridor light, and wonder if ceramic amphibians count as backup witnesses in court. You file an incident note. Patient alleges unauthorized injection, but the charge desk yawns at your concern. Hallucinations are common, they reply, stamping paperwork without looking up. You mention the missing timestamps, the chart gaps, the stuck but not stuck med cabinet. You might as well be reading poetry to a vending machine. So you do something reckless. You record Mr. Han's whisper on your phone, voice memo, labeled Blue Needle. Not exactly CSI grade evidence, but it feels like arming yourself with a Nerf gun before a zombie apocalypse, useless yet comforting. Joke 3. At least you can throw the phone if things get desperate. Back in the break room, you scroll medical journals. Did you know morphine was first isolated in 1804 by Friedrich Serturner, effectively inventing modern pain management? That's tonight's authoritative fact-handy trivia for your next awkward elevator ride. Yet the power of opioids has always been a double-edged scalpel. Misuse is as old as its discovery. Historians still debate whether early Korean field hospitals during the 1950 Incheon campaign documented covert euthanasia to conserve supplies. Records are spotty, motives murkier. You stare at that line on your screen and feel a cold echo of the present. Supplies, motives, smiles. When dawn stains the windows peach pink, you find Jung outside Mr. Han's door, clipboard hugged to her chest, smile as serene as a temple pond. He slept well? She asks, voice floaty. He woke up. You answer, refusing to blink first, a tiny tilt of her head, almost amused. That's unexpected. She walks away, humming what sounds like a lullaby, and your spine feels like it's made of icicles. Remember the post-it warning? Yeah, it vibrates in your memory louder than the heart monitor. Mr. Han lives for now, but you've just painted a target on both of you. You clutch the porcelain frog, slip it into your pocket, and promise the old man you'll keep watch. Because in this place, survival is measured one sunrise at a time, and the smiling angel never seems to sleep. Hospitals are supposed to feel alive, even in the quiet hours, soft beeps, nurses chatting under their breath, the occasional shuffle of slippers down the hallway. But tonight, it's dead silent. The kind of silence that doesn't rest. It watches. You walk your round, pretending not to notice how the light above room 409 flickers every 6 seconds, like it's stuck between two worlds. You make a game of it, counting how long before it snaps out of rhythm. 6, 12, 18. Then it stops altogether. Great. Joke 1. Either the bulb is dying, or it just can't handle the plot anymore. The halls feel longer than usual. Each corner yawns like a tunnel. You pass the nurse's station. Empty. Charts are stacked too neatly. There's no laughter, no coffee steam in the air, no background hum of life. Just absence. And then there she is again, Nurse Jung, at the far end of the corridor, standing motionless by the crash cart, hands behind her back. You don't think she sees you, but when you blink, literally blink, she's gone. You're not alone, and yet, you feel completely abandoned. You cut through radiology to get to the elevators. That's when you notice something else. All the clocks on this side of the floor are frozen at 2:17 a.m. Not one or two, but all of them. Different brands, different batteries, same exact minute. You even check your phone. 3:21 a.m. You almost laugh. Almost. You radio maintenance. They say the clocks aren't synced to the same power supply. Might be a circuit issue, they offer. We'll get to it tomorrow. Of course they will. You keep walking, and that's when you hear it humming. Faint, melodic, unmistakably human. A lullaby. Same tune Jung was humming by Mr. Han's room the night before. You follow it to the linen closet. You hesitate, then open it slowly. Inside, silence. No person, no sound. Just stacks of clean sheets and a strange smell. Faint jasmine, undercut by rubbing alcohol. But something's off. One of the folded gowns is warm to the touch. Not fresh from laundry, warm. Body heat warm. You back out slowly. Now you're jumpy. But this is no ghost story, right? You're trained, logical, evidence-based. So you go to the security office. They let you pull up the CCTV feed for the East Wing. You rewind to 2:17 a.m. There she is, Nurse Jung, standing by room 409. She turns, looks up directly at the camera, and smiles. Then the screen cuts to static. You rewind again. Same thing, exactly the same. Every time you reach 2:17 a.m., the footage breaks. Only that camera. Only that minute. The tech scratches his head. Could be corrupted. You don't say it aloud, but you already know she's erasing things. Not with software, with something else. Something no one trained you to fight. Historians still debate whether Korean shamans during the Silla dynasty practiced subtle poisons derived from fermented herbs, silent killers that mimicked natural sleep. The recipes are lost. Or maybe just hidden. Maybe someone rediscovered them and slipped them into a modern syringe. Back in the ward, you pass by room 409 again. The light has returned. Steady now. Too steady. And on the floor just outside the door, a tiny square of white paper. Another note. This one reads, "Clocks don't matter. Sleep does." You crumple it into your pocket, but the chill it leaves doesn't crumple with it. Somewhere behind you, the lullaby starts again. You're not the only one asking questions now. Word travels, even in whispered tones and hallway glances. Nurse Sun Hee, who's been here for over a decade, pulls you aside near the break room. No small talk, just a quiet sentence. She's not new, you know. You pause. What do you mean? She worked at Jeju General 5 years ago. Same pattern. Quiet deaths, night shifts, then poof. She taps the side of her temple. No one remembers transferring her. Just one day, her locker was empty. Jeju General. That's across the water. Not the kind of place people leave quietly, especially with a clean record. You go home and dig deeper. Forums, old staff rosters, archived hospital newsletters. You feel like a conspiracy theorist with a coffee habit and a detective complex. Joke 1. You've Googled nurse serial killer so many times. Your ads now recommend nurse-themed dating apps. No thanks. Jeju General confirms she worked there. Hae Won-young. She even won Employee of the Month. Twice. But you find an internal memo posted just after her departure. It's vague, corporate speak, all legal padding, and no meat. We remain committed to patient safety. Staff rotations are being reviewed. Then you find something weirder. An obituary. Dr. Min Byung-soo. Died 3 days after Young's transfer. Cardiac arrest. No foul play suspected. But he signed her transfer request. His name's on the digital paperwork. Historians still debate whether the bureaucratic purge during South Korea's 1970s hospital restructuring buried critical malpractice investigations, many of which were quietly swept under layers of paperwork. You wonder how many names were tucked under administrative review. Back at your hospital, things get worse. Nurse Hyun, one of the newer hires, collapses during rounds. She's pale, dizzy, disoriented. You help her up, rush her to the staff lounge. She mumbles something strange. "I didn't drink the tea." You freeze. Later, you ask her what she meant. She shakes her head like it's a dream she can't explain. "Jung made me tea last night," she says, rubbing her temples. "Said it would help me sleep before shift. I didn't drink it. It smelled off." You don't know what's more terrifying, the tea, or the fact that you're not even surprised anymore. Odd detail of the week. Every time Jung brings tea, it's in the same cup. A smooth ceramic one with a painted crane on the side. No one's ever seen her wash it. No one knows where it came from. And then there's the nurse who did drink the tea, Soo-jin. She's out on indefinite leave. Insomnia, paranoia, vivid hallucinations. You try to talk to her, but her phone goes straight to voicemail. Her last message in the group chat was a single sentence. She watches you sleep. You start feeling watched, too. Not constantly, just in slivers. In the way her eyes follow you in reflections. In the glass of the medication fridge. In the dark sheen of the polished hallway floor. You've heard of toxic personalities, but this is something else. It's like she leaves residue. Every room she walks through feels heavier after she's gone. Quieter, sleepier. You've stopped drinking anything you didn't pour yourself. Stopped sitting in the lounge for more than 5 minutes. Stopped feeling safe on night shifts. One evening, you catch a glimpse of Jung on a video call, just a flash, over someone's shoulder. She's talking to another nurse at another hospital. Same uniform, same soft smile. She's mouthing something. You lean in, but the feed cuts. The next day, that nurse is found unconscious at her post. No one connects the dots, but you do. And you're starting to think she didn't learn this alone. It starts with sleep. Always sleep. That's how she gets to people slowly, gently. You notice it first in the interns. They come in bright-eyed, jittery with caffeine and nerves, but within 2 weeks they're yawning mid-rounds, heads bobbing during post-op reports. You hear one murmur, "I haven't slept more than 2 hours in days, but I feel fine." That's the trick, isn't it? You feel fine until you don't. You ask around, casually at first, like you're gathering gossip. Joke 1. You've become the unofficial chief of quiet paranoia, and no one even voted. Most people don't notice, but a few older nurses nod slowly. One says she had to start napping in the storage closet just to get through night shifts. Another tells you, "Jung's voice is like white noise. I dream about it, even when I'm not sleeping." Still, nobody complains. No one wants to be the one to accuse the most reliable nurse on staff. That's the real danger she's built, trust like a fortress. She works overtime. She brings snacks. She remembers everyone's birthday. And when patients die under her care, it's always peaceful. A gift, really. You look up her patient list over the last 3 months. A pattern emerges. They're not terminal. Some were recovering. Others were stable. But all of them died after being moved to her wing. All sedated. All without signs of distress. You find 3 with identical notes. Patient found unresponsive during routine vitals. No resuscitation attempted per DNR. Except one of them didn't have a DNR. You double-check the records. Then you check the family interview transcript. No mention of DNR. You bring it to your supervisor. He glances at it, mutters, "Probably a filing error," and closes the folder. "Shouldn't we report this?" He taps the desk, not looking up. There's no proof. You realize then this hospital doesn't want a scandal. No one does. It's easier to call it a clerical mistake than to imagine a nurse quietly killing patients with kindness and mid-dose sedatives. There's a saying in Korean hospitals, "The walls have ears, but the floors remember everything." You start walking slower, noticing the way her footsteps never echo, how her presence glides more than walks. You remember the patients who stared at her, eyes wide, as if recognizing something. Not fear, just inevitability. One night, you pull a double shift and decide to stay awake through her entire round, just to watch. Not interfere, just observe. She doesn't see you. Or maybe she does, and she just doesn't care. You watch her approach a sleeping patient. She checks the IV, smiles, leans down and whispers something too soft for you to hear. Then, very calmly, she pulls a small vial from her pocket. You squint. It's not hospital issued. She injects it into the saline bag, waits a moment, then leaves. You rush in 10 minutes later. The patient's vitals are slowing. You sound the alarm. Nurses swarm in. Code blue. They try to revive him, but it's too late. Later, the report reads, "Unexpected cardiac failure. No indication of foul play." But you saw it. You saw her, and when she walks past you at the end of shift, she smiles like she's saying, "Try proving it." Odd historical fact. In the 1990s, South Korea faced a nationwide shortage of forensic toxicologists. Many hospital deaths were filed as natural causes without autopsies, especially among the elderly. Historians still debate whether this shortage delayed the exposure of healthcare killers by decades. You're not a historian. You're a nurse with a gut feeling, and you're starting to think she doesn't kill because she has to. She kills because she can. You can't sleep now, not after what you saw. The hospital hums quietly around you, beeping monitors, rolling carts, the soft shuffle of slippers on tile, but beneath it all is that whisper. Her whisper. You keep thinking about the vial. Clear, unlabeled, smuggled in through the front door like it belonged. And maybe it did. Maybe she's been doing this for so long that the hospital itself can't tell what's real anymore. You wonder how many other patients died the same way, smiling, peaceful, fading out like a candle in a quiet room. You start collecting details. You make copies records of DNRs that never existed, sedative logs that don't line up, camera footage of her rounds. Joke 1. You've basically turned into the world's most sleep-deprived detective with a nursing license. Each night, you stay a little longer. You watch her. You wait. But But here's the problem. She knows. She starts greeting you by name now. "Long night again?" she says sweetly, placing a hand on your shoulder. Her touch is cold, dry. Her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. You nod, forcing a laugh, and she moves on like a breeze across the sea, soft, gone, and still somehow lingering. Then, you find it. In the break room, tucked behind a loose panel near the sink, you stumble upon something that doesn't belong, a small leather pouch wrapped in plastic. Inside, vials, 7 of them, carefully packed. Beside them, a single sticky note with a date, 3 days from now. You take photos, you stash the pouch again, exactly as you found it. You bring the evidence to the head nurse. She squints at the photos, then sighs. "This again?" she mutters. You freeze. "What do you mean? Again?" She leans back, rubbing her temples. "You're the 4th in 2 years to bring up something about Jung." "4th? Where are the others?" She shrugs. "Transfers, resignations. One took a leave and never came back." You feel the air thicken. She continues, voice low. "This hospital's old. People die, and she's never been caught doing anything wrong." Then she looks at you. Really looks at you. You need to let this go. But you can't, because now it's not just suspicion. It's a countdown. 3 days. And then, another patient dies. No signs of struggle, no alert. Just gone. You check her schedule, she wasn't even on duty. But you remember something. She traded shifts that morning with a younger nurse, volunteered, to help her get home early for a wedding. No one questioned it. She's always one step ahead. You start wearing a body cam hidden in your ID badge. You record everything. Her movements, her jokes, the quiet conversations where she whispers comforting nothings to patients seconds before they pass. And she starts watching you too. One night, you find your locker slightly ajar. Nothing missing. But a single wrapped candy lies on the top shelf, perfectly centered. Your favorite kind. No note, just a smile. Odd historical fact. In 2004, South Korean hospitals began requiring fingerprint access to narcotic storage after a rise in internal theft. But those rules didn't apply to personal use medications or courtesy drugs, like mild sedatives. Historians still debate whether such relaxed regulations contributed to loopholes used by medical serial killers. And maybe that's the scariest part, how easy it still is. You try to tell yourself you're imagining things, that there's a rational explanation. But every time she smiles at you now, it feels like a dare. You barely sleep anymore. Every night is a stakeout in scrubs. You float through the wards like a ghost, coffee in one hand, suspicion in the other. And she's always there, perfectly punctual, endlessly polite, just a little too helpful. She offers to cover shifts. She remembers birthdays. She arranges flowers when a patient passes. Always the first to mourn, the last to leave. But you're starting to see the pattern beneath the performance. There's a new patient, elderly, confused, recovering from minor surgery. No family visits, no phone calls, quiet, ideal. You see her check his chart 3 times in one night despite not being assigned to his bed. The next morning, he's dead. Heart failure. No struggle, no alarms. Just another peaceful end. You try again, bring your notes, your suspicions, even your footage to a new doctor. This one actually watches the clips, frowns, plays one twice, leans back. "I mean, maybe," he says slowly, "but this could all be coincidence." You almost laugh. Joke 1. If you had $1 for every time someone told you this looked like nothing, you'd have enough to start your own private hospital. So you dig deeper. Pharmacy records, CCTV timestamps, patient complaints. You find a log from 3 months ago, an anonymous call to admin claiming a nurse was giving patients something extra at night. The call was never followed up. You're not crazy, you're just early. You start to notice something strange in the patients she visits regularly. One detail they all seem to share. They always smile before they die. It's subtle, but unmistakable. And then you find the old woman. She's sharp for her age. Cranky, opinionated, impossible to fool. She's been in the ward for nearly a month, and she tells you flat out, "That young nurse keeps trying to give me things I didn't ask for." Your ears perk up. What kind of things? Tea. Mostly, she says. With honey. Except I don't like honey. And the tea tastes funny. You ask if she drank it. She snorts. I'm not an idiot. Then she squints at you. You think she's doing something bad, don't you? You nod. She takes your hand, her grip unexpectedly strong. Then don't let her get away with it. It's all the encouragement you need. You start trailing her more boldly, making it clear you're watching. She starts avoiding you, changing routes, signing out meds under other people's logins. You catch her once entering a room without logging her ID badge. You step inside seconds later. She turns, startled, like you've interrupted something private. The patient is asleep, breathing fine. You glance at the IV. It's new. You ask what she's doing. She smiles, tilts her head, says, helping. You don't believe her. Odd historical detail. In South Korea, hospital hierarchies can be rigid. Nurses rarely question doctors, and junior staff rarely question anyone. This culture of deference has, in rare cases, made it easier for malpractice and misconduct to hide in plain sight. Historians still debate whether this cultural context enabled certain medical professionals to operate unchecked for years. You finally catch her with a vial in hand, unmarked, mid-shift. No patient nearby. She sees you, and for the first time, her smile slips. Just for a second. You take a photo. She puts it back in her pocket, says nothing, and walks away. You feel the air change. You're not hunting her anymore. She's hunting you. Now it's personal. You feel her shadow before you see her. You check over your shoulder twice as often. You stop drinking anything you didn't pour yourself. You start parking your car closer to the hospital entrance, under the cameras. You tell your roommate to call if you're ever more than an hour late coming home. This is no longer a puzzle. It's a countdown. And then your shifts are changed. No warning, no explanation. Just a new schedule pinned to the board, and suddenly, you're working on a different floor, away from her. Away from the ward where patients keep dying quietly, politely, with faint smiles. You ask HR. They smile too. Just staffing needs. But your gut screams sabotage. And you're not imagining it 2 days later. You hear she's been assigned full-time to your old floor. So, what do? You pull the oldest trick in the whistleblower book. You pretend to play along. You clock in. You do your rounds. You act harmless. But at night, you're printing pharmacy logs again. You're reviewing body cam footage. You even talk to a lawyer, off the record. She hasn't technically done anything provable, they say, eyebrows raised. But this feels like a movie. You respond with joke. 1. It's only a movie until someone doesn't wake up. Then one night, it happens. A young man with a mild asthma diagnosis, just 26 years old, is found dead in his bed. No medical explanation. You weren't even working that night, but you're on the scene within 30 minutes. You ask for the medcart logs. They're missing. The nurse who found him? Her, of course. She claims he was unresponsive during her routine vitals check. But you remember his last post on social media, just 5 hours earlier. A picture of the hospital meal tray with the caption, "Food poisoning might actually kill me before my asthma does, lol." He was joking, but now he's dead. You find one more thread to pull. An intern from another department quietly tells you he saw her emptying syringes into a waste bin, full ones, unused, unlogged. She claimed it was expired saline. You ask to see the bin. It's already been cleared. The hospital's getting nervous. A private investigation firm visits the ward the next day. Anonymous, suits, clipboards. You notice 2 things. One of them seems to recognize her, and she doesn't even blink. Later that night, she corners you in the stairwell. No cameras, no nurses, just the hum of the hospital at 2:00 a.m. She leans in close. You really should mind your own business, she whispers, soft as velvet. You're not supposed to be here anymore. You feel the chill all the way to your fingertips, but you don't back down. You say nothing. You meet her eyes and hold the stare. She's testing you. And maybe something worse. Odd fact of history. The idea of angel of death, medical killers, nurses, and caregivers who murder patients while pretending to comfort them dates back centuries. Some were even canonized before being caught. In one shocking 19th century case, a nurse claimed she was releasing souls from pain. Her real motive? Power, control, the thrill of playing God. Historians still debate how many of these so-called angels were ever caught, or how many are still out there, undetected. That night, you sleep with your phone under your pillow. You dream of hospital beds that swallow people whole. You wake up knowing the end is near for someone, but not for you. Not yet. You wake up to a voicemail from a blocked number. It's only 6 words. They're watching you. Be careful. Please. That's it. No name. No callback. Your stomach knots. You've officially crossed into spy thriller territory, and it's not fun anymore. This isn't academic. This isn't intellectual curiosity. You're in danger, and not just the shadowy, paranoid kind. Real, pulse, pounding, physical, danger. And yet, you're also closer than ever. You call in sick, but instead of staying home, you spend the entire day in the records archive, where everything is printed, filed, and blessedly unhackable. You dig through nurse shift logs, pharmacy dispensing records, and unusual death certificates. The hospital keeps everything because in healthcare, paperwork is a religion. It takes hours. But finally, something clicks. One particular batch of medication, an anti-anxiety sedative, was logged under her name 6 different times. Always the same dose. Always with patients who died unexpectedly within 48 hours. The problem? That specific sedative had been quietly pulled from rotation due to contamination concerns. It was supposed to be discarded, but in these 6 cases, it wasn't. You joke one, either we've got a ghost pharmacist, or she's a magician with a death wish. Then you uncover a second pattern, this one more disturbing. In each of those cases, the families never asked questions. Not once. No autopsy requests, no suspicion, just quiet grief. One even sent a thank you note to the hospital for their tenderness during the end-of-life process. That tenderness was poison. You make copies of everything and store them in a locked desk at home. One copy goes in a password-protected folder on a USB drive, another in a sealed envelope, labeled only with her initials. Then you wait. The next night, you get a text from an unknown number. Room 214. Now, it's her. You know it. But you go. Because you're not just a whistleblower anymore. You're the only one left who's willing to see this through. Room 214 is dimly lit, curtains drawn. A patient in the bed, elderly, unconscious, intubated. Monitors beeping softly, and she's there, standing at the foot of the bed, smiling. She turns slowly. I knew you'd come. You ask what she gave him. She tilts her head. Comfort. You say, that's not what I asked. And then she laughs quietly, kindly, like your old friends sharing a private joke. You're wasting your life chasing ghosts, she says. Some of us are meant to help people move on. You're still afraid to let go. Odd detail. Serial killers with medical access are often driven by complex delusions. Some believe they're removing burdens from society. Others see death as a form of mercy. The most chilling ones? They just enjoy watching the light fade from a person's eyes. No mess, no struggle, just silence. Historians still debate whether such behavior comes from trauma, ideology, or pure predation. She moves toward you, syringe in hand. But you're not unarmed. You pull out your phone, already recording. Say that again, you whisper. She stops. The smile vanishes. And in that instant, the illusion breaks. The soft voice, the gentle touch, it all disappears, replaced by the raw calculation of a predator whose mask just cracked. You leave. You file the report. You hand over the evidence to hospital leadership, and for once, they act. She's suspended pending investigation. The pharmacy logs are sealed. An external audit is announced. But you know this isn't over. People like her don't vanish quietly. They wait. They find cracks. They slip through. And they smile the whole way down. You check the news every morning now. Not for updates on the audit, you know those will be buried in polite corporate language, but for obituaries. Anonymous ones. Unexplained ones. You've started to recognize her pattern. When a new obituary includes certain phrases, peaceful passing, grateful family, declined rapidly, your pulse quickens. She's still out there. Suspension isn't the same as justice. And hospitals? They're masters at hiding rot with wallpaper. But then something happens that breaks the rhythm. A family comes forward. You read the headline 3 times to make sure it's real. South Korean family questions sudden death after nurse's care. They mention her name directly. In print, you nearly choke on your cereal. The son of a patient, he's a web developer, not a journalist, filed an open letter on his blog. He claims that his mother was cheerful, active, and improving before she was monitored by a particular night nurse. Within 36 hours, she was gone. No incident, no warning, just gone. He even includes photos of her from the week before, smiling, sitting up, eating kimbap. You joke 1. If she was any more alive, she'd be dancing in the ICU. He writes, I never questioned it, but something kept nagging me. Her last message to me just said, I feel slow, like my thoughts aren't mine. You shiver. The next day, 2 more blog posts appear. Different families, same nurse. The internet moves quickly. A viral thread on X, formerly Twitter, uses the hashtag #TheSmilingNurse. It's a strange moment of collective reckoning. People who once thought they were alone suddenly realize they were part of a pattern. And it spreads. A true crime channel picks it up. Midnight Medicine, the nurse with no trace. They run facial comparisons, review hospital floor plans, even simulate the drug's effect on a body using 3D animation. It's equal parts sensational and disturbingly accurate. Historical fact: South Korea has had only a few known cases of medical serial killers, and almost all of them were discovered accidentally through internal whistleblowing, not law enforcement. The system protects itself. Odd detail. The hospital's internal handbook still lists her name in archived shift schedules, long after her suspension. Some employees even report seeing her on the grounds weeks later, just walking through the halls. Historians still debate whether public shame or systemic exposure is more effective at ending patterns of silent abuse. Some argue that shining a light is enough. Others know better, that predators just move into darker corners. But in this case, the light finally hits something solid. You get a call from the hospital's new chief compliance officer. She's young, direct, and not from the inner circle. I read your report. It's time we talk. You meet in a neutral cafe. No uniforms, no tapes, just 2 people facing down a mountain of red tape. She slides a folder across the table. Inside, copies of flagged patient deaths. Not 6, not 8, 22. You joke. 2. At this point, she qualifies for her own department. They've confirmed that every case shared a common link. Sedation drugs administered by hand, not logged into the automated tracking system. She bypassed the software. Manually adjusted doses. Always at night. Always alone. The compliance officer leans in and whispers, "We think she was testing dosages, learning what worked." You whisper back, "What stopped her?" Her answer, "Nothing. We just finally caught up." And then comes the final nail. They found a journal in her locker. Just a few pages, mostly gibberish fragments of thoughts, symbols, drug names. But at the bottom of one page, scrawled in perfect English, it reads, "They always sleep so peacefully." So now you know. It's not a theory anymore. Not a hunch. Not a whisper in the hall, or a vague suspicion scribbled in a margin. It's a journal, a list, 22 flagged names, a line in English that sounds more like poetry than confession. They always sleep so peacefully. And maybe that's what gets you the most, her handwriting. It's beautiful, loopy, elegant, almost gentle. You joke. 1. Honestly, if serial killing doesn't work out, she could do calligraphy weddings. But this is no wedding. It's a funeral loop, a carousel of soft goodbyes. And now, after months of buildup, the moment everyone's been waiting for finally arrives. She's arrested. Not quietly either. It's a full media circus. A carefully timed leak puts the arrest at 5 a.m., right in front of the apartment she shares with her cat, her houseplants, and a modest 2-room rental stacked with unread books on ethics and Buddhist meditations on life. The reporters are frothing. Someone yells, "Why did you do it?" She just smiles. That same smile from every staff photo. Controlled, easy, like she's posing for a passport renewal. She doesn't resist, not even a twitch. Inside the car, she turns to the window and watches the sunrise over Seoul like it's a movie she's seen before. The news explodes. Talk shows debate whether she's a sociopath or just broken. Internet sleuths dig into her high school yearbooks, trying to find some hint, some shadow behind the eyes. But it's all normal. Choir club, nursing scholarships. A favorite quote from Florence Nightingale: "The very first requirement in a hospital is that it should do the sick no harm." Historical fact. Florence Nightingale also believed in subtle interventions, airflow, light, silence. But she never thought someone would weaponize silence itself. Odd detail. When police searched her apartment, they found dozens of self-help books marked up with highlighters. Not one of them was about death, but there was a post-it on the fridge that read simply, "Sleep is the reward for kindness." Historians still debate whether people like her, seemingly ordinary, quietly lethal, operate from trauma, ideology, or some internal compass we can't see. Some argue that it's about power. Others, control. But the truth? We may never know, because she's not talking. No confession, no apology. Just a nod at the charges and a request for a defense lawyer who's good with silence. And then comes the trial. Oh, the trial. It's clinical, cold. The prosecution presents charts, death timelines, flowcharts of drug administration logs that don't match digital records. They point to her history of night shifts, her personal access to unmonitored supplies, her handwriting in patient notes always the same phrase, resting calmly, no signs of distress. You joke, too. Yeah, well, distress tends to fade when you stop breathing. The defense tries to spin it as a witch hunt. They argue she was overworked, that patients die every day, and correlation isn't causation. They say the system failed, not the woman. But that argument breaks apart when they show security footage. One clip, a nurse, her silhouette, clear as moonlight, slipping into a patient's room without gloves, without a cart, just a small vial in her hand. She's out in under 4 minutes. That patient died within the hour. And finally, in a rare moment of quiet during the proceedings, the judge asks her directly, "Why?" She smiles, and then shrugs. That's it. No fanfare, no dramatic monologue, just a shrug. Like she lost interest halfway through the performance. After all, you're not the audience. She was always playing for herself. They sentence her to life, not death, not execution, life, which, in this case, is the longest possible silence. She takes the verdict like she takes everything else, like someone being handed a cup of tea. Calm, polite, almost serene. There's no breakdown, no tearful goodbye to the courtroom. She simply bows, thanks the interpreter, and walks out as if this is the logical end to an exceptionally quiet day. You think maybe that's the real horror of it all. Not the acts themselves, but the way she carries them like a folded blanket. Clean, folded, tucked away. Her prison is in Daejeon medium security, though her crimes were anything but. She is assigned to laundry duty, and once a week, she volunteers to water the prison garden. Tomatoes, mostly. Basil. A few lavender plants. You joke one. Imagine eating a salad made by her. That's a Michelin-starred final course. She never speaks to the press. Not once. Not when a famous American podcast offers exclusive rights. Not when a documentary crew from Japan flies in and sits outside the gate for 6 days. She refuses every visitor except her mother, and even that stops after the 2nd year. Her cat? Adopted by a neighbor, still alive, still fat. And then the copycats begin, because they always do. Within months, 2 nurses, one in Busan, another in Daegu, are arrested for suspicious deaths. The media coins a name, the night nurse effect. Commentators talk about the fragile psyche of caregivers, the pressure of death proximity, and the blurred lines between mercy and murder. Historical fact. In 1991, Britain had a similar wave after a nurse named Beverly Allett was convicted of murdering 4 children in her care. After her arrest, 2 others were caught mimicking her methods in completely unrelated hospitals. Scholars call it the echo effect. Odd detail. In her 5th year behind bars, the South Korean nurse submitted a request to study horticulture. Her reason? To better understand what thrives quietly. That phrase showed up later, two handwritten in a prison essay about the seasons. Winter is misunderstood, she wrote. It's when everything rests, unseen. But that doesn't mean nothing is growing. Historians still debate whether she felt any remorse. Some point to her last job evaluations she consistently scored perfect 10s in compassion. Others say her silence is proof of guilt without grief. Still others, quietly, wonder if she really did all of it. If maybe some deaths were natural. If maybe, just maybe, someone else had watched her and learned too well. And here's the part no one can quite explain. There were 22 names in her notebook. Only 19 deaths were confirmed. 3 names remain unaccounted for. Those people? Alive. Unharmed. Never hospitalized again. You joke too. What do you even do after you make the list and don't die? Just brag forever at parties? The police never figured it out. The victims never spoke to media. And she never offered a reason. Not even a look. Just a smile. And so she stays in prison. Quiet. Unremarkable. Even boring by most accounts. A model inmate. Still smiling. Still watering plants. Until one day, nearly a decade later, her assigned psychiatrist writes a letter to the court. The nurse, he says, has stopped smiling. Not out of sadness, but because, as he puts it, she feels her work is complete. And that's where it ends. Or maybe it doesn't. Because out there, in another hospital, in another city, a nurse signs out a vial. Alone, calm, smiling, and no one notices. You'd think the story would end there. Locked doors, cold cell, dusty case file in a forgotten drawer. But stories like this, they don't know how to stop. Not really. She fades from headlines, of course. There's always a newer scandal, a fresher horror. But you never really stop thinking about her, about how she moved through the world like a ghost no one believed in, until it was too late. Sometimes you picture her walking through the hospital corridors again, that familiar scent of antiseptic and linen in the air. You swear you can hear her soft footsteps even now, echoing faintly between the walls of your memory. She wore white, always, crisp, unwrinkled, as if untouched by time. And she smiled never too much, never too wide, just enough to seem harmless. Joke 1. Honestly, if chilling but polite were a cologne, she'd be the poster girl. It's quiet now, in Daejeon prison. Her garden has grown wild, untended since her request for a greenhouse was denied. The basil sprouted into thick hedges, the lavender curled toward the sun like it's reaching for something. Maybe forgiveness, maybe not. She no longer volunteers. She no longer speaks. Her eyes stare past the walls, past the guards, past time itself. You wonder if she sees something there, something waiting. Here's your historical fact. In 1944, a Soviet nurse named Tamara Ivanova was suspected of poisoning dozens of soldiers under her care. Her reason, according to declassified reports, was that mercy shouldn't ask for permission. She disappeared during a hospital evacuation. They never found her body. Odd detail. One of the nurse's surviving patients, one of the 3 names from her list who didn't die, moved to Canada, opened a bookstore, named it Blank Pages. When asked in a local interview about the name, he simply said, "Some stories never get finished." And maybe that's the truest thing of all. Historians still debate whether she planned it all from the beginning. Was she always this cold, this calculating? Or did something happen, some crack, some small shift that turned a healer into a hunter? No records suggest childhood trauma, no history of abuse, not even a failed romance. It's almost worse this way. No motive, no madness, just method. You joke too. At this point, the only thing she hasn't been diagnosed with is boredom. You wonder about the other nurses now, the quiet ones, the ones who smile too quickly, the ones who don't. Are they watching? Are they wondering too? Or are they carrying their own secrets, tucked in neat little pockets next to their pens and gloves? And as the lights go out, one by one, across the city, across the country, you can almost feel her presence. Not in a spooky horror movie way, but in that quiet, unsettling way where you start checking who's behind you without meaning to. You tell yourself it's nothing. You tell yourself the story's over. But maybe that's what she wanted all along. Just a story. one that ends softly, one that leaves you just uneasy enough to wonder what you'd notice if it ever happened again. Joke 3. Anyway, sleep tight, and maybe keep one eye open. You know, just in case. And there it is, the truth, dressed like a bedtime tale. Easy to dismiss, but impossible to forget. You let out a slow breath, and let the silence carry you to sleep. Hello everyone. Tonight we are going somewhere cold, sterile, and softly terrifying. You're standing in the fluorescent half-light of a hospital corridor in Seoul. It's nearly 3 a.m., that strange hour when machines hum a little louder. Footsteps echo like they belong to ghosts, and everyone's trying to stay awake but praying nothing happens. You sip from a vending machine coffee, paper-thin and bitter, watching as tired nurses shuffle past you with clipboards and blank faces. But one of them smiles. Always. Nurse Young. And you're going to remember that smile forever. It's not evil, not creepy. It's calm, gentle. You'd almost trust her with your life. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Drop your local time and where you're watching from in the comments too. I love seeing where this bedtime crew comes from. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soft background music, and let's enjoy our evening ride together. You've never liked hospitals. Who does, right? But tonight, the place feels heavier. You're sitting on a bench in the night ward, pretending to scroll through your phone while nurses move past with practiced grace. The late shift here at this Seoul Medical Center is supposed to be the quiet one. Minimal emergencies, routine rounds. But the silence isn't comforting, it's loaded. Someone next to you mutters a half joke. You heard about room 409? You glance up. A nurse. Dark circles under his eyes. He chuckles nervously. They say it's cursed. Everyone who sleeps there doesn't wake up. Another nurse snorts. It's just the palliative room. What do you expect? Still, you make a mental note. Room 409. Later, you see her. Nurse Young. She's gliding silently down the hallway, soft soles making no sound. Her hair is always in the same perfect bun. Her ID badge swings gently. And that smile relaxed, controlled. Mona Lisa meets emergency care. She pauses at 409. Her clipboard flicks up. A quick glance inside. She tilts her head. You don't hear a word. Just that smile like someone checking a sleeping child. A few hours pass. The ward dims more. The whispers return. 4th death this month. They were stable. She was the one on shift. You hear it again and again. Always on nights when she's working. Always no visible signs of trauma. Just heart monitors going flat with a soft, almost apologetic beep. A peaceful passing, but too many of them. Too consistent. Too quiet. You ask around carefully. No one wants to say too much. There's tension when her name comes up. Someone mentions she's efficient. Another shrugs and says she handles the hard ones. And yet, the morgue log shows patterns you can't ignore. It's subtle, but disturbing. Night after night, she's present when they pass. Always assigned to rooms marked DNR do not resuscitate. You tell yourself it's probably coincidence, but it doesn't feel like one. At 5 a.m., the sun barely glowing behind the window blinds, you watch her disappear into the staff lounge. Someone follows with a thermos. They greet her like nothing's wrong. Maybe nothing is. But that smile, it stays with you long after your shift ends. And as you step outside into the crisp morning air, you realize you've just looked into the eyes of someone who might be the most dangerous person in the entire hospital.